What's going on, guys? Welcome back to episode 6 of my Marathon Training 2 series. It's hard to believe that we're already 6 episodes in, but here we are. This week we're going to be covering, June 22nd to June 28th, and we're going to check out my runs for this week. It's the most miles I've ever done, one of the fastest paces I've ever finished with, as well as just the total amount of time is off the charts. Let's jump over into the calendar. Let's take a look at it. So here we are at the calendar, and as you can see, I had a very good week. Started ahead on Tuesday with a 5-mile interval with 5 sections of 6 minutes fast, 2 minutes recovery. This went pretty well, considering it was only 5 miles. It was pretty smooth and didn't really have much of any difficulty to it. I would say that the most difficult part was the warm up and cool down. I think the math ended up coming out, in 5 miles. And, in 47 minutes, I had 30 minutes of running fast. And then the 2 minutes in between there is another 10 minutes. So that's 40 minutes. So I really only had a handful of minutes on either side to warm up and cool down. And so I think with it being the first run of the week, it was kind of tough to, get warmed up enough beforehand to then really get the most out of the intervals. Other than that, it went pretty well. As you can see, 5 miles with an average pace of 9:33 per mile with a total time of just under 48 minutes. So that's definitely one of the better statistic runs that I've ever had. And it's probably the best run that I had up until, and we'll move ahead now to Thursday, in which I completely blew that one out of the water. Where instead of the Thursday being, a 5, 6, 7 miles easy run, this was a 6-mile quick run, and so I did 6 miles with a 9:35 pace and I would say just under an hour, but I completely smashed it in under an hour, 57 and a half minutes. Definitely the best run I've had of 5+ miles. I felt really good on Thursday, and so when I read that it was a quick run, I really wanted to do the best I could. I really focused on trying to run this one similar to a mindset of how I would race. So even towards the end, I really tried to pick it up to simulate a final kick home. Thursday also was there was a moment when I was running. I think it was like a mile or two in, and we'll touch more on this later. And it's going to be I had a very interesting thought, and I want to expound upon it after we finish looking back at this week. So moving ahead to Saturday, this is our first instance, like I mentioned in the last episode, of a Saturday run not being just a 3-mile easy run. This was a 4-mile run, I know, at as proposed 11 and a half minutes per mile. And I also want to expound upon this run a bit as well. I ended up running it extremely quickly, 4 miles and 9.5 minutes a mile, 38 minutes. It is not the run that I should have done, but it is the run I did. On Saturday, I woke up late. I didn't get a good jump on the day. And so it was one of those runs where it was very tough for me to control my pace, and to the point where I think I even ran the last mile. It was either the 3rd or the 4th mile that I ran it in a sub 9-minute pace. And considering what this run is supposed to be, I think I need to chill out on that. But yeah, waking up late really threw me off, and I found it almost nearly impossible to control my pace and tempo, and it really messed me up. Going into Sunday run, a 16 miles in 3 hours. And I bring up how much the Saturday run messed me up because, boy, I was sore and I was not looking forward to 16 miles. In the previous week, I mentioned that the 14 miles was the longest run that I've done since running my marathon. This has now unseated that. And as we'll see going forward, this one will last just as long. But the way I ran my Saturday run really caused me issues on my Sunday run. It took a lot longer to get warm. It took a lot longer to really stretch out to a point where I could run it. it ended up being a better run than my 14 miles last week. I think the idea of running the most mileage since my marathon kind of really got in my head last week. And so this week, I think I knew a little bit more of what to expect. And so it went a lot better. It may not have gone as well statistically. I think my paces were significantly off. Let me take a look here, actually. Yeah, so I ran 14 miles at a 10.5 minute pace, but this included a lot more. This included a lot more walking in the middle ground because I took off so quickly to really get this 10.5 minute mile. It really required a lot more walking in the back half. Whereas in this 16 miles, I really focused more on slower pace, still fast enough, but slower pace to make sure that I'm able to continue to run the whole thing. I think I did. I'm not saying that I didn't stop and walk, but the amounts, whereas last week I probably walked a couple of miles in total. This week I think I maybe walked half a mile in total. And a lot of the stoppages were either just for crossing intersections, refilling my water, or taking a running chew, which I actually got from Strava for completing one of the challenges. And so that was pretty fun. But yeah, 16 miles, 11 minutes, 10 minutes per mile, just under the 3 hours. So even at the end when I was tired and beat up and sore, I still managed to beat my goal by a minute and 20 seconds. And so that was a great feeling to wrap up the week. Such a good week. I know I say it every week and it's going to continue to happen, but the most mileage I've run by a mile. And the best pace I've had for this amount of miles, what was it last week? 10:10? Yeah. So, and then also adding on 20 minutes of extra running time total. I am really warming up to increasing this mileage, and I'm looking forward to continue on from here. So now I want to jump back to a thought I had, as well as a new segment that I want to include. And they kind of go hand in hand, thankfully. Back to my Thursday run, that 6 mile quick run. And I want to expound upon some thoughts that I had during that. So I want to try out a new segment that I want to implement in these every week, is either to pick a run or the week as a whole, and then find a quote online that I think kind of represents it. And I had this thought while I was running on Thursday. It was 6 miles quick that I ended up doing my best run probably ever, at least in terms of a workout run, not necessarily a long run. But I had a thought while I was running of, I was just thinking about this week as compared to last week, whereas last week, my Tuesday and Thursday runs were a bit longer. I think it was a 6 mile and 7 mile respectively, whereas this week it is a 5 mile and 6 mile respectively. And I was thinking of, that's so much less. I wonder why they took that step back. Now, as it turns out, it was because it was 16 miles at the end of the week. But I had the thought on Thursday where I knew I was running 6 miles, and I actually had the subconscious and without even thinking about it, I thought, it's only 6 miles. That's nothing. I could do that all day. And I had to stop and think about this for a second, because that thought was insane to me. And I feel like I talk about this a lot. If anyone who talks to me about my running, it's always the same thing of, I never imagined that I would look at a 6 mile run and go, six miles, that's nothing. I literally just wake up and do that before work. And that really blew my mind a little bit, that the idea of running 6 miles had become so nonchalant to me that even when my previous training, 6 miles was a decent run, even towards the end. And I'm realizing now the training plan I was following back then, I know it's a bit of a tangent, was not preparing me enough for what it was going to be. And I'm really happy I found this one, because I think it truly is. So 6 miles to me back then would have been a decent run. It would have been one of my longer runs of the entire week. Now I'm looking at it as a baseline expectation to be able to do it. And that is amazing to me. And it leads me into this new segment I want to do. I don't have a name for it yet. If you have any ideas, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear some ideas for this. But I found this quote after doing some digging through. And what it says is, what seems impossible today will one day become your warm-up. And I thought that was perfect for literally the exact thoughts that I had, that, the 6 miles was just one of my midweek runs. You will wake up in the morning, work on whatever you're going to work on, drink your coffee or tea, and then guess what? Time to work out. All right, just go smash 6 miles, and then we'll move on with your work day. And that has grown so exponential in my mind that 6 miles is a warm up. 6 miles is almost an expectation for me. The fact that for the last couple of weeks, my Tuesday runs have been 5 or 6 miles, or even this week was 5 miles. 5 miles almost didn't seem worth it. 5 miles wasn't enough to truly feel like I got that good of a workout. And what that tells me is that I need to take my 5 mile runs more seriously, especially when they're the intervals, because that just clearly means that I can do better. But 5 miles is my baseline. My Saturday runs, I've turned into this extra, photo shoot, walk around downtown on your own kind of things, because those are almost nothing to me now. 3 miles was a joke. 4 miles was better. And I didn't get a chance to take pictures this week, so maybe it feels different when I actually do plan to stop afterwards downtown and then come home. But 5 miles and 6 miles plus are the expectation for me now, and I can't believe it. I never expected that 6 miles will be a baseline of almost no thought going into it. In 2018, I would have seriously had to mentally prepare myself for 6 miles. But today, I can wake up and do it. It's becoming a warm-up. It's helping me stay active during the week and prepare for my super long weekend runs, and that is blowing my mind. But that was a quick little segment I think I want to add to these. Finding that quote, I'll read it again. What seems impossible today will one day become your warm-up. And that could never be more true than the realization I had this week. And I can't wait to continue on and discover what my new baseline warm-up will be going forward. Let's now take a look forward at next week. We'll talk about wrapping up June and what I have in store for myself next week. All right, we're back at the calendar. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look ahead at next week, and the week that will wrap up June, and we'll move over into July. I will cover all of June in next week's episode just because it's not over yet, and obviously I don't have those numbers yet. I know it's only one run left, if you can see here, but we'll be covering all of June's results either next week, or I might make a separate video for the June results. It's a little weird. We'll see how that goes, and obviously you'll know probably before I do, about what I decide to do. So either keep an eye out for my June results as a separate video, or we'll just cover it in next week's episode when I go over my runs for this week and their results. But looking ahead for this week, we have Tuesday, another 5 mile interval run, 8 sections of 2 minutes fast, 2 minutes recovery. This is going to be, I think, a great opportunity, as to, like I mentioned, and I was looking back, that to take my 5 mile intervals a lot more seriously, or the intervals in general, try and focus on really attacking those intervals and really getting the most out of them, because 5 miles is quick and it goes over like that. So I want to be able to get a decent workout to start the week and really set myself up for the rest of the week. That run will wrap up June, and we'll now move on to, exciting, July. So looking ahead to Thursday, 7 miles easy. Nice 11:30 pace. It probably will not be that, but a nice 7 miles. Be nice. It'll be a nice one, especially setting up into the 4th of July weekend, which I think will be a very interesting experience. But yeah, Thursday, 7 miles. Not too much to talk about. Saturday, 4th of July morning, 3 miles easy. I'm kind of disappointed we're going back to the 3 miles. I kind of really wish that it had just stayed at 4 miles. I think the difference between 3 and 4 miles for me right now is nominal. And so I'll think about it. And it may ultimately come down to how I feel on Saturday morning. I may bump that up to 4 miles just to start increasing my mileage a little more. But we'll cover that when we get there, and we'll see the results of that and whether or not I actually do that next week. And then Sunday, as I mentioned when I was looking back at my runs this week, 16 miles took over as my new longest run, and it will last for a week, as this week I have slated for me the day after the 4th of July, an 18-mile run walk. Notice there's no time constriction on this, so it'll be interesting to see what the time on this ends up being. I think I may try and do it in 3.5 hours. I think that would be good pace for me at that point. Doing 16 miles in, 2 hours 57 or 58. Adding on another 2 miles, I think puts you right under. I think 3.5 would be a good benchmark to aim for, to make sure that, just because it's 2 extra miles and there's no pace limitation, that you're still going on a good pace. Because when you're running a marathon, guess what? At 18 miles, you're still going to have another 8 miles to go. And if your goal is to do it in under 4.5 hours, to do 16, well, I guess we'll do it this way. And 16 miles in 3 hours, that means you have an hour and a half. That means you have 90 minutes to run 10 miles. So you're really going to have to pick it up. And so I think I want to set myself that goal of 18 miles in 3.5 hours, just to make sure that I'm not cheating myself by allowing myself to slow down or walk that much more. But that is going to be a very, very interesting run. If you follow my running Instagram, and if you don't, you should. If you look at the map for my 16-mile run last week, I had to do some creative things to make up those extra 2 miles. And so having to add on 2 more miles to this is going to be even more interesting. And I think I'm going to get to see a lot more of downtown and surrounding area of downtown San Antonio a lot more, to try and find those 2 extra miles. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. That's going to wrap up the look ahead. I think it's going to be a very interesting week. I think if we do some math, 5 and 7, 12, 15, 33 miles. So, we're continuing to push up our mileage. And if we change our Saturday to a 4 mile, we're looking at about 34 miles. We're making these jumps. We're really increasing the mileage and the time spent out on the pavement. So that's going to be it for next week. So let's head back to the desk and we'll wrap this up. That's going to wrap it up here for episode 6, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed our new segment. I'm hoping to smooth that out and hopefully come up with a name for that besides just, quote of the week or something like that. I wanted to be a little more creative than that. Again, if you have any ideas on that, leave a comment down below, letting me know if you have any ideas. Also, leave a comment down below on an update on how your training's going or how your not training's going, or maybe even just tell me your feelings on the things that I'm doing. I don't know. If you like the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. I know it really helps me out. And if you like these videos, I upload these every week. I'm looking to upload more content to this channel going forward. And if you want to keep up with that, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know exactly when I upload videos. I hope you guys had a great week. I hope you have a great week going forward. And I'll see you guys next week.